Feminine energy, when done properly, is actually more effective to run and create your business by than constantly being in masculine energy, doing, working 11 or 12-hour days every day, never taking a break, pushing and taking as much action as you can. You know, the masculine energy approach is like the harder you work, the more outcome you'll achieve, the greater result you'll achieve. I'm not sure about you, but I have never found that to be true for myself or for any woman that I've worked with. So if you're a woman and your work is really based off your creativity and your genius and being connected to your wisdom that you have to share or your artistry that you have to share, my hypothesis is that creating via your feminine nature is far more effective and will get you far further in life than constantly being in your masculine. Because what you create and your end results that you create are dependent on creativity, not hours input. Have you ever, I know I have you ever grounded out for a few weeks, just completely grounded out, worked really hard, put in the hours, not stopped, and really felt like you were only inching forwards or not getting some massive payoff or reward that you wanted? And then for some reason, somehow got really inspired, really turned on, really connected to your passion and energy. And suddenly you made all these connections and you just had the most delicious, beautiful day messaging people because you made a connection. And so you messaged them and you did this and you posted this here and somehow it just got seen by this person and things just all came together. And it did more in that couple of hours or one day than you're grinding out for the past 6 months. I absolutely have had that experience, and the women that I work with have that experience too, because your results are based off your creativity and the level of turn on and energy that you're creating with, which is directly impacting the connections that you're making in your brain, the ideas you're having, the connections that you're making in regards to everything that already currently exists. Something that happens so often in my mastermind, Feminine Mystery School, is that we will get on there on the hot seat coaching calls and do sessions, and someone might come onto the hot seat coaching call feeling a bit down, feeling a bit out of options, let's say. And we go through some sort of process, and through shifting their consciousness from that more shut down stress survival state, or what I would even just call like a turned off, like your energy's turned off and you're just really in this more default survival, low vibe energy. Caveat, this doesn't mean you always need to feel good to create and be effective. I just have to say that because that's one of the most toxic ideas going around. But you're in a more shut down energy. And then when we get their energy turned on, connected to their vision, their passion, their excitement, suddenly they remember, oh my God, this person had reached out to me about this and I never got back to them. I know these people that work in newspapers that could definitely get my story out there. You know, the connections get made, not just like ideas of things that could work, but literally what is available to you right now in your life that you're just not seeing and you're forgetting about, because you're in a very narrow view. So in our masculine energy, we're in quite a narrow view, right? We kind of got this narrow focus, and I'm not totally poo-pooing masculine energy. I've got a podcast episode on feminine and masculine energy and creation. So if you want to hear me dive more into that, go listen to that. But in our feminine, we open up. Our feminine nature is to open up and be receptive. And my hypothesis is that women are far more powerful and effective in their lives when they embrace creating with their feminine. That doesn't mean not also using masculine energy. It means embracing their feminine and opening up, connecting to that which is greater than just themselves, and being receptive and open in their creation process. So I think that sometimes there's a bit of a fear for women around this, because it feels like, oh, am I just going to be really passive? Am I going to be, to be more feminine in my business? Do I let go? Do I have to let go of my drive, my ambition, how much I want to achieve? Absolutely not. You get to keep your ambition and your drive, but you get to source it from a different place. And that's what makes all the difference. So let's actually use that as a segue to get into the first way to create and operate your business from your feminine nature, which is to lead with desire, passion, and aliveness, not logic. It was funny when I wrote these points down, because it made me think of something that I haven't thought about in a really long time. And this was when I decided to leave my engineering job, and what actually made me decide to leave my engineering job. So at the time, I had been working in engineering for a couple of years. I knew without a doubt this was not the place for me or my life, and I wanted to get out of it. And so I'd started saving up money in order to be able to leave my job, because I was like, no way. But I also didn't really have any ideas of what else I could be doing. And something that I started doing before I quit my job, which was just part of my own journey and process, coming onto a spiritual path and starting to understand myself as a spiritual being and not just the collections of my bruises and wounds from childhood, was that I just started to do things that were completely out of my comfort zone. And trust me, guys, I started out, my journey. And when I say that, I guess I mean through my teenage years and my very early 20s, I was so shut down. My energy was so shut down. I was not turned on at all. I learned to completely shut down and clamp down my energy. And my whole life just felt like a survival battle. And I hated it, and it was really draining. And I actually just didn't even have any ambition for the future at all, because I wasn't looking forward to the future or the fact that I would have to continue living for a lot longer. So that's kind of where I started. And through this time where I started to just try different things, I started for the first time, probably since I was a kid, to connect with passion about something. And one of the things that I got really into was raw food. Oh my God, making raw food things, juicing, making up recipes, making raw caramel slice, which I was like, why on earth do we have this horrible, unhealthy caramel slice that's made with condensed milk and sugar when you literally medjool dates are literally caramel. They just taste like caramel. And so many things. And I got really excited about it. I got really into it. And I started a raw food business alongside working full time. And I would do market stalls and I would do custom orders. And I just got so into it. And I got so into, in particular, the health aspect and teaching people about the health aspect and making these different swaps and why you would do it and how it was helpful and superfoods. And I remember that being this first spark of passion since I was a kid, and like, wow, that's something to pay attention to. And then it also so happened a woman in the town, after she saw me, that I had met before, after she saw me with my raw food market stall, invited me back to her house and started basically brainwashing me into making me think of this as a business, which I'm really grateful for. And what literally happened in my mind was that I went, okay, so I'm doing this engineering job that I really don't like. I mean, honestly, when I was in the project management areas and I got given really big projects to manage, I found that very engaging and stimulating, but I still wasn't passionate about it. And so I remember thinking to myself, if I do something I'm passionate about, which was just not something I'd had any awareness of before this, if I do something that I'm passionate about, I'm going to get so much further in life than doing this job that I actually don't care about, and I don't have any internal pull to try to progress in. There were other graduates that were working at the company I was at who were all, you could tell, like they were all about trying to progress their careers, get to the next level. How quickly can you get to, can't even remember what the levels were called, but like this level, and then this level of manager, and then this level. And I just didn't give a shit. I couldn't, something about me that anyone that knows me and has known me since I was a kid is that I can't pretend to care about things I don't care about. I just don't care. And so in my job, I did not care about progressing at all. I did not, everyone did this thing because it was a big company. You could earn a lot of money at a really good company. And people all did this thing that I just didn't quite understand. It reminds me actually so much of also being a child when I first went to primary school and observing the things kids would do and just being like, that's so inauthentic. Why are you doing that? You're only doing that because someone else told you to do that. And I guess, you know, that's just the demonstration of my genius, is that it's just in my nature to really be able to pull myself out and observe human behavior and observe the absurdity of when people are just running programs. Because in my job, I remember everyone that was really career focused was just a total suck up to the company. And it felt like you were expected to act like the company was more important to you than anything except for your family. Family was like, this is an okay value to be more important than the company, like your family, your health, your family. We're all about family. But other than that, you had to pretend, because obviously it wasn't true for anyone. You had to pretend that the company was more important to you. And I just couldn't. And that was actually something I got graded down on in one of my reviews once. I remember it was like a peer review process at some point where they went around to everyone in my department and they to give comment on me. And there was a section about how much does this person care about the company, understanding the company's goals, wanting to progress the company and their goals. And that's what I got marked down on because I didn't care and I couldn't fake it. So anyways, that's a little diversion from, well, it's not a diversion. It's an illustration in a little bit of an indirect way of this first point, lead from desire, not logic. So I guess why I went with that story was because your passion is going to be so much more creatively generative than doing something that's logical. And I was just saying actually in my last episode that I recorded that this is where I actually see AI can be a slippery slope for people that takes them away from their passion and turn on, because that's actually where your creativity and your genius is going to be found, is in that, and not going with what's logical, going with the trends of the past. You know, that's what AI is getting you to do. It's going with the trends of the past. It's going with everything that's on the internet and what it's gauging about that and how you can fit into that, literally how you can basically fit into that, and not your desire, not your passion, not your turn on. When you embrace that as your source of motivation, that opens you up, and that is in nature feminine, because that is receptive. That is receptive to this higher intelligence, this higher nature, this higher force that you have, and receiving from the unknown, and not just creating based off the known, which would be just looking at past trends and having that be direct your business entirely. So this first and fundamental way to run your business from a feminine energy is to be directed by your desire, by your passion, by your turn on, and not by logic. Logic is the enemy. Well, okay, no, it's not. It's a bit extreme. I was going to say it's the enemy of creativity. It is when you let logic drive the show. You can involve logic in your creative process. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I am not an anti-logic person, but you don't want logic to be what is driving you that then disconnects you actually from what you're really turned on about and what wants to come through you and what's alive in you. So this first step is being in what's alive in you and letting that be what fuels your creation. Because what you're essentially doing when you run your business with your feminine energy is that you are also getting your energy from a different source. When you run your energy from a pressure, do, work harder, achieve harder sort of mode, you're actually sourcing your energy basically from adrenaline and cortisol. Like you're motivated from what you're trying to get away from, which is often people's motivation for achieving. Not always, but when you're in this certain mode, you are actually trying to get away from something and you're setting your goal based off that's going to get me away from that thing and get me towards this other thing. Sorry, I really don't feel like I explained that very well, but I hope you get what I mean. I trust that you're on this enough. You know what I'm talking about. And so that, and from a stress state, the thing that's literally fueling you is adrenaline and cortisol. And that's also what depletes you, is when that is your fuel source for creation. When you move into creating from your feminine energy, your energy source is your life force. Because when you're turned on, you're connected to that life force, which is your creative energy, and that fuels you. Have you ever been laying on the couch feeling fucking tired and dead and depleted and like you don't want to do anything, and then someone messages you that you're really excited about? Like you're really excited about this person, or they message you about something that really excites you and really grabs you, and they're like, hey, do you want to go do this? And all of a sudden you've got energy. That is the difference. That's the energy we're talking about, the turned on energy, that when actually something turns you on, suddenly you have energy. And that's the energy you're creating from and sourcing from when you create from your feminine energy. So number one is to lead from your desire and not from logic. Number two is to downregulate your nervous system. So you're probably familiar with the idea of your nervous system having sympathetic, which is your upregulated state of your nervous system. Also high levels of sympathetic is like real stress and survival. And then your downregulated state that you need to go into in order to digest food properly, in order to sleep. It's like all, that alertness going down into your parasympathetic. And your parasympathetic is what enables you to be like soft and receptive and surrendered and maybe a bit, mushy and this in a receptive, surrendered, open state. And so this is actually very important when it comes to your feminine energy and running your business from your feminine energy, is that you actually create this balance in your nervous system and you don't just go purely from that really hard, like activated on state constantly. Personally, this is a way that I am constantly using to nurture my feminine energy and be able to create more effectively in my business, because I find hands down, I'm so much more effective. I'm so much more regulated, and I'm connected to my passion and my turn on, rather than anxiety that I'm not enough and I'm not doing enough and nothing's ever going to work. That's my stress state. When I nurture my feminine energy is so important. And this one I find to be so important. And actually, even just last week, I was meant to record podcasts on Wednesday. I just had a very high go-go day on Tuesday, recording videos, going straight to a party, being late at the out late at the party. Next morning, I had sessions, and I had 1 2-hour break where I could record a podcast that I was meant to get done for my assistant who was going to work on Thursday. And then I had my mastermind call, and then I was meeting up with someone immediately afterwards so we could go for a walk before the sun went down. And when my mastermind finishes, like, I would have to go immediately if I want to go for a walk. And then I was making her dinner at my house. And so it was like this compression, highly activated. And I just knew, I could feel it in my body. If I push myself to record this podcast in this 2-hour break, I am not letting my system come down and I'm going to burn out. I can feel it. And so as much as that is the plan, that I would have had that done, it was an oversight that I even scheduled it in that gap. I shouldn't have, because it's too much up for my system in one day. And I went and laid on the couch instead for those hours. And then I recorded the episode today, which you don't even know what day it is. So I'm sorry, I'm going into too much detail. But I recorded it today, and because I just needed that. My system needed that downtime. And what I've noticed is something that in the past year, or maybe a bit over, that I've really been able to feel. And so what I will do, like, I will have days of the week that are higher intensity, where I have a lot of calls and I do more intensive things. And then I have to have days of the week where I don't put myself under pressure to do anything, or I give myself like a whole morning until after lunch that there's not anything I have to have gotten done in that time. And that's where all my creativity comes in. That's where all the best stuff comes in. That's where I had the download to do my book launch in Melbourne, which was the thing that at the end of last year, when I was going to go back for Christmas anyway, which was the thing that made me actually then write my book and publish my book. Like, all of my best ideas and creativity that really propel me forward come from having that spaciousness. And I can always feel it now if I haven't had that spaciousness for a few days. I feel like my energy being blocked up in my system, and that I just need no pressure and space for my system to relax. Because also, just health-wise, my system will get more and more dysregulated the more that I stay on and I don't balance it with having space and no pressure. You know, this is something that I also found. I used to run a membership called Sacred Money and Power, where one of the main things in this membership was once a month, I guided women through sacred sexuality, sex magic kind of practices using their eros, sexual energy, and pleasure in order to clear blockages around their work, sharing their work with the world, with money, accumulating money. And we were doing it through, I guess that was like a really purely feminine approach that would change things on an energetic and nervous system level. And one of the things that I found with it is that when women would just, and I found this with my own practice as well, when they would try to be like, okay, I have to do this practice in this 1 hour, and then I've got these other things on my to-do list, your system can't let go. It doesn't let go. You can't actually drop into a feminine state under pressure. It's opposed. That's not how you can relax. That's not how you can surrender. So you need to create these pockets and these ways in your life that there's no pressure and that you can just be open and receptive, because that's where your highest quality creativity and genius is going to come through. And, you know, and here's where you might have to really address the part of your brain that tells you can't stop, which is actually, coincidentally, I didn't plan it this way, exactly what I spoke about on my last podcast episode. So go listen to that episode, which is about burnout and feeling behind, because I don't dive more into how to unhook that here. But it's just so essential to actually nurture your eros and your feminine energy, that you create down regulation in your nervous system and you're not at constant go, 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 go. So that's number 2. Number 3, creating your business with your feminine energy, running your business with your feminine energy, is don't need to know. So the thing that will send you into a stress state is when you need to know and you need to control like how things are happening and the outcome. So you need to know, you need to control, you need the 5-step plan. If you don't know, then you're afraid it's never going to happen. It's never going to come together because you don't trust yourself and you don't trust your natural ability and you don't trust your genius. And it's actually a very similar mechanism to what I was just describing in the previous point here. Because if you need to know, you can't relax, you can't be open, you can't be receptive because you need to know. And so the only thing you're going to draw on is what you already know, which is what you've already experienced before, which is not actually opening up to your feminine nature and not opening up into openness and being able to downregulate. So something that supports you to come into that openness of your feminine energy, which will bring you into that receptivity and also your magnetism, is not needing to know. So what you can do for this, and also your ego is always going to seduce you into needing to know. So it's something that you'll unconsciously probably start doing, and then you just have to catch yourself doing and let go of it. So if there is something you've got in your sights that you want to achieve, you've got some goals and you're getting stuck on them, you're getting twisted up on them, you're getting a bit fucked up about them, what you need to do to support you to come into your feminine energy is don't need to know how they're going to happen. And also, actually, additionally, don't need to have certainty that they will happen. Because if you need certainty and you need to know, you won't be able to drop into your feminine energy. My next point, number 4, and this is a really simple one that you can do right now, and you can do it all day, every single day, and you're just going to be secretly floored, maybe not secretly, you're going to be a little bit floored at how simple this is because it just takes a change of focus. So this next one is to do whatever you're doing, but do it pleasurably. Do it pleasurably. If you've got to write an email, write the email, but write the email pleasurably. If you have to plan some things or go through some documents, do that, but do it pleasurably. How can you do it pleasurably? Well, literally just ask yourself. You'll probably have some ideas, but it could be that you roll your hips or you put on some music that feels pleasurable to listen to, or you stroke your skin at the same time, or you talk to yourself in a seductive way at the same time, or you just drop into your body at the same time. Now, this is going to be hard, very hard to do if you're really stressed. So if you're really stressed, that's something you need to go and address first because as I've already mentioned a couple of times in this episode, and I do actually dive into it pretty well in the last episode. So go listen to that if that's your blocker. If you're stressed, you won't be able to drop into that receptivity and that pleasure. Pleasure is a byproduct of being in your feminine nature and connected to your feminine nature. It's a byproduct. When you really fully drop into your feminine and your openness, absolutely everything becomes pleasurable. What you're looking at becomes, the breeze just came through. The breeze just came through my doors because I'm looking at the camera and through these open doors, and like the breeze touching your skin just becomes pleasurable. Anything that you taste becomes pleasurable when you're really deeply in your feminine. It's a byproduct. And this is something I noticed really well last year, because last year I was living in this most gorgeous jungle house where I overlooked this literal entire valley of jungle. Actually, right now I'm overlooking jungle as well, and it is amazing. But at my last house, just splendid. And you could just look, like I would just walk back into the house after being at the gym or getting up in the morning or anything and just be captured by the sheer beauty and just in pleasure and awe at the beauty. And then whenever I would get into a shut down or contracted state, none of it looked beautiful. I couldn't see the beauty. I mean, I'm finding it here in this house as well, but I just was really noticing it last year, living in that gorgeous house and like, wow, When I feel contracted, I don't see things as beautiful. I'm not being captured by the beauty. I might be able to objectively see that looks beautiful, but I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling the pleasure of it. But when I'm really open and in my receptivity, oh my God, it's just like, it's so beautiful. Yeah. Right? So if you're really highly stressed, this is going to be really hard and you're going to need to address that stress first. But if you're not really highly stressed, you can actually just shift your focus to it. And what you're actually doing when you do this is that you're bringing your awareness back into yourself. And that is feminine in nature as well, is that you feel, you bring yourself back into your senses and what you're feeling, and you have awareness in that. And that is actually what creates magnetism in your energetic fields, is when you are possessed in your body, you're feeling your body, and your awareness is in your sensation and what you're feeling and your pleasure. You don't have to be in it in any visibly extreme way, but this is actually a subtle shift you can make. You can practice it even when you're just walking down the street. That totally changes your energy. It totally changes your energy field. So just a really simple thing that I want to give you from this is just whatever you're doing, do it pleasurably. Try this for the next week. Whenever you're doing tasks in your business, do it pleasurably. Just do it pleasurably. So that's number 4. Number 5 is linked to some of the things that we've been talking about. And it's don't do as much as you possibly can. Now, there's a mind bender for your brain that's probably been trained to always do as much as you can. Don't do as much as you possibly can. Do what you would love with the most spaciousness, or do what you can with the most spaciousness and pleasure. So your brain might be telling you, you've got your to-do list of 15 things, or even 7. Honestly, you'd have to be working at 110 all day to get those things done. Or just be, just on fire. And your brain tells you should be like that every single day, and you just always should be doing more and achieving more. And it's not true, and it's not helpful, and it's not supportive of your highest creative ability. And so this is about understanding that you are not most effective when you do as much as you possibly can. You are most effective when you do what you can with spaciousness and pleasure. Do what you can with spaciousness and pleasure. And that is going to yield far greater reward and outcomes than doing as much as you possibly can. Doing as much as you possibly can is a one-way ticket to turned off energy. Turned off, disconnected from your creativity, disconnected from your inspiration, disconnected from that part of you that has the ability to guide you constantly towards your highest good and your highest potential, expressing and living your true nature and purpose. So don't do as much as you possibly can. Do as much as you can spaciously and pleasurably, and just watch things change. Watch things change. Just do it as an experiment for 1 week. An experiment. Okay, I'm going to actively put it aside everything my brain's telling me I need to do, and I'm just going to do everything I can from spaciousness and pleasure, and let that be enough. Let that be enough. This is for any of you listening to this that have hyper control tendencies, this could be the most uncomfortable from this list, potentially. I mean, they all might be a bit uncomfortable. But this is going to be one of the most effective. So I encourage you to try it and let me know how you go. These are 5 actually very simple, easy ways to run your business from your feminine energy without losing momentum. And I'm going to say, actually be really supportive in so much more momentum and so much more expansion and growth in your business. So we're going to wrap up there. I'm sending you lots of love. If you enjoyed this episode, or if there's anything that particularly jumped out for you from it, I'd love to hear in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, put it in the comments. You can now leave comments on episodes on Spotify. Leave a comment. Let me know what stood out to you and what you're taking away from this, and I'll see you in the next episode.